Hi everyone, greetings. My name is Anis Khalid. I'm from WorldFish's Communications and Marketing Department, and I'll be your MC for today. Thank you so much for joining us in person at the auditorium. We also have people online. Are we good? Okay, we shall start. Thank you so much, High Commissioner, for coming over to WorldFish HQ and gracing us with your presence today. We have an array of exciting presentations from our fellow scientists, both in person here and online, and would love to give you a showcase. All right, so before we start, just some housekeeping rules. For people here in the auditorium, the flow would be like this. We would have an array of presentations, and then we would have Q&A, and then we would have some remarks from His Excellency, and then a small ceremony, and then we will close the event. So for people online, if you have any questions, please feel free to turn on your microphones or send it in the chat and we'll take a look. And for people in the auditorium, we'll pass along the microphones to you if you have any questions to any of our scientists or our High Commissioner. So that's sort of the process that we're going today. Okay, so to kickstart the event for today, we would like to play a video from some colleagues who are in Nairobi, Kenya at the moment, has a special message for you and for the staff here.
Hello, Your Excellency and colleague from Malaysia. This is the team that is being trained for epidemiology tool, and it is going to look at challenges that farmers are faced with. I'm Professor Philip Nyaga from University of Nairobi, and this is part of the NORAN funded project on Aqua Health Africa, which is helping the African countries to improve the health of fish. Jambo Malaysia!
Thank you so much to colleagues Jerome and Laura for putting that together. So without further ado, let's kickstart the program with our very own Cristiano, who will be on the podium for his presentation. Thank you.
So good afternoon, everybody. Your Excellency, thank you. For being with us today. It's a great pleasure to have the possibility to present, part of our activities, in particular the Asia Africa Super Tech Highway project, which actually I confused the word, is Asia Africa Blue Tech Super Highway project. Apologies for it. And it's a great pleasure to talk about it, also because the project is focusing in part in Kenya and has relevance for your country. And so, without talking further about this, let me go into the details of the project. We prepared, actually not myself. This slide was prepared from a colleague of mine, but I found it particularly nice because in very few lines summarizing key important details of the project. So the name we internally call AAABS. So it's Asia Africa Blue Tech Superhighway Project. The award amount is 44.5 million pound from United Kingdom. So its part is funded under the Climate and Ocean Adaptation and Sustainable Transition Program called COAST. The duration of the project is until March 2030. Just started the 14th of July, the last 14th of July. Is funded by the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office, so FCDO, and is divided in two main phases. The first one is focusing on 5 countries: Kenya, Mozambique, Nigeria, Tanzania, and Bangladesh. And it has 4 work packages. And in the second phase, that basically would be year 5 to 7, we will have another additional 6 countries, so Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines, Ghana, Solomons, and Tanzania. Of course, some of those countries may, especially the one in the second phase, maybe, get to a different consideration, but this is not, we will see that by implementing the project. I think this slide, probably you have seen already in the presentation of our DG, but it's relevant. It's absolutely relevant, and it's important that you can see this many and many times more, because it's giving you the idea of how important are aquatic foods in general, oceans, and everything related to it. Because oceans at the end of the day, and aquatic foods are relevant for food and nutrition security of people. They are relevant for women, because also many women are involved in all the related work to aquatic foods production. They are also relevant for the livelihoods of people, and they are usually produced with less carbon footprint, and that's very important, because of course they are compared to other food kinds. They are definitely having a less impact on our life, where we are under a situation of crisis because of the climate change. However, it's not all gold. Definitely, there are a lot of challenges that we try to address, and those challenges are key, and challenges that we try to address with this project is large investment. Of course, we cannot resolve all of them. We have clearly more specific challenges to resolve, but this is to give an idea of where we are looking for. And we are looking for a situation where there is a growing population that requires more and more food. So aquatic foods are part of these solutions, and the way we are managing our resources, and the way if we are managing our resources sustainably, definitely we can produce more food with less cost for the environment, and probably also for the society. We can definitely start looking at producing a more viable way, and where at the same time we take care of coastal communities and habitats, because we don't want to produce food while we are degrading our environment, because there is no future in it, right? And however, no, at the same time, we have also to think that it's not just by, I think before my colleague Adi Allison make a reference about, looking at producing food from oceans, but, we are also looking at producing energy and other things. So in a way, overall, we are tending to degrade the environment, and of course we want to prevent this to happen, and to avoid this we need to ensure that we are moving forward to in using climate adaptation and climate mitigation strategies with our stakeholders to achieve that objective. Of course, it's also important to highlight that communities, particularly in the south of the world, are more fragile to those key challenges, and are more fragile for various reasons, because there is less a clear framework, because there is less coordination in somehow. So it's very important to orient our attentions to those communities. But I think sometimes the details is in the name. And if you notice, the project is called Asia Africa. And why 2 countries? 2 countries because the idea is to establish a South-South cooperation, where between countries in Africa and in Asia, and also between Asian and African countries, to adapt and scale promising technology that can be piloted and then scale in different countries. So there is a sort of knowledge transferring that is, and also technology transfer that is key for the success of this project, because it's multiplying the possibility to test and pilot different solutions, and the possibility to achieve, in this way, to achieve much greater impact. I think also you saw these slides, and our DG also presented, but oops. Did I? Okay, sorry. I think our DG also mentioned about it, but I want to repeat it because again, it's key. So what we are trying to do really is to develop and to deploy innovations. They are climate smart, they are pro-poor, and so they are not costly because everybody can deploy climate smart solution, but then they are not easy to adopt. Here, the goal is to do it in a way that can be scalable. And also to ensure that those technology and those innovation are going to be adopted, we are linking to it capacity development, institutional capacity development too, and knowledge sharing. And again, here, the idea of sharing knowledge within countries. And also, you may remember, Your Excellency, I refer also when I was talking about before, in our meeting before, about the Aquatic Food Initiative, about the need to work and to harnessing the potential of data and digital solutions. So evidence, we want to take information based on evidence that we produce. We want to be sure, we want to be informed, and we want to take the best decision possible because, it's crucial for the future of our countries, in this case Kenya, but also for the future of the ocean. And finally, space for dialogue. Dialogue, for ensuring that the voice of many that are counting are heard. It's very important because it's ensuring long-term sustainability. But going a little bit more in details, I want to give you a little bit an idea of how the project is structured in different work packages. We have 4 work packages. And so basically the first work package is about digital information systems for effective management of small-scale fisheries. I believe, Your Excellency, you mentioned about it when you spoke about Indian Ocean, and you said exactly in the meeting, we don't know exactly what's going on there. Yeah, this is a way exactly to respond to your request. And doing it in a digital way, in a way that can near real time, where you can get information at hand as quick as possible to take the best decision in order to help people that are depending from oceans and support their livelihoods and producing the best possible food. Then we have a second work package that is focusing more on aquaculture, but a kind of aquaculture that is proper, simple, and I would say maybe simple, technically simple, I would say not, but possibly cost-effective and climate smart, and is an integrated mariculture or integrated multi-trophic aquaculture. I will give you more details later, but is basically the idea is to farm different species at the same time. They are basically using different portion of the organic material through the food chain. But I will give you more detail later. And then we have a work package 3 that is looking at climate smart food processing, storage, and technology to reduce food loss and waste. I think you mentioned also this earlier on. And finally, the work package 4 was incentive-based marine and coastal ecosystem protection and management. We have developed a theory of change where, of course, we tried. Now, I don't want to go in these details because it would be too much and probably it's difficult to read. But I decided, I thought very long if to show you this slide because it's not easy to for. But the sense of it is that there is a plan behind. We thought about it. We try to understand how this can happen to reach the impact that we desire at the end. And most importantly, is looking at partners in the different countries where we are not going there in isolation, but we are developing alliances that are key for long-term sustainability. And also where we are trying to achieve specific objectives, so helping people in that specific context, but overall looking at sustainability of the aquatic food systems. However, try to give you a little bit of a number. We are trying to achieve different outcomes. Of course, they may look, not yet very specific in the sense that need how the things are going to be employed. But basically, the idea is, to improve in a sustainable increase in sustainable aquatic food production, is to, help people to benefit for adoption of innovation and to stabilize their livelihoods, is to ensure that at least 10% of the household in the communities that are engaged in managing in sustainable way coastal and inland systems, and also that all the farmers there in those areas are adopting 20% of those are adopting farmers and fisher are adopting climate smart farming solution and better natural resource management practices. Going a little bit more in details, I will not spend too much time because we are going too much in technicality, and I don't want to end in a technical discussion too much. But I ask in particular our Work Package 1 and Work Package 2 to prepare a couple of slides, additional couple of slides that are relevant, because those two work packages will work in Kenya. And so the first work package is Work Package 1, and it's about digital information systems. So the idea is basically to, we like to call digital coast Kenya, and the work package want to adapt a sort of digital platform that we already developed called Pescas, that already been developed and used in different countries, particularly in Timor-Leste. And it's basically enable a real-time fisheries monitoring for small-scale fisheries in Kenya. And the idea is to start in Kwale country and across the transboundary conservation area with Tanzania. We already identifying few partners, and of course, how this innovation works is basically working by setting a solar power trackers on boats, and basically through this solar power tracker we see where the boat is going to fish, and we can track also the kind of catch that the fish boat and the fishermen are doing. So it's clear that we produce through it a lot of information, a lot of data, and can be used to build a predictive model of sustainable yield, and also can help to develop a localized climate models to enhance fishery safety at sea and improve seasonal production models. We use cybernetic adaptive management system and also artificial intelligence to do that. You can see in this bottom part, this is Timor-Leste, where currently is implemented, and you can see the pink part basically is representing the route of the boats, where the boats are catching the fish, etc. And it's important because through it you can understand how to sustainably manage your natural resource there. By for instance, setting some temporary ban in the certain area, or trying to understand what are the catch in the specific area, and also the nutritional value. For Work Package 2, I was referring, I think, before about the integrated multi-trophic aquaculture. The idea is that the integrated multi-trophic aquaculture basically provides the byproducts, including waste from one aquatic species as inputs, so as a fertilizer food to another one. And basically, the idea is that I feed my fish, and some feed that is not used by the fish is going to feed other aquatic animals that could be use of organic material. That could be, for instance, shellfish or other kind of invertebrates. And what is remaining from there is going to support the development. So it's inorganic. It's going to support the development of seaweed. You can see here, no, basically fish, what is getting out from the fish. So the output of this system is helping to grow here a sea urchin, and then what is getting out from this is going to basically the output of this system would feed into growing of seaweed. So what is important here for this work package? For this work package, it is important to understand where, so the feasibility, where it's possible to do, and what are the species that can be used, the combination of the species. So a lot of work that will be done in Kenya in collaboration with local partners will be to identify suitable areas and to identify the suitable combination of species that can be tested, piloted, and scaled, for larger climate smart, sustainable production there. Now, for work package 3 and 4, I don't want to go too much in details, but it's basically the work package 3 is the idea is to identifying and test, pilot, and scale basically climate smart technology for reducing food waste and loss. And it's not just the technology itself, but it's the setting up of the system that helps to prevent food loss and waste, food waste and loss. It's not just one technology that can resolve the problem there, but it's a system itself. And the participation and the engagement of the different stakeholders is key. While for work package 4, the idea is to again identifying and assess the possibility to establish an incentive-based conservation landscape system. In the country of interest, including Kenya, of course, and sorry. And understanding also what are the current capacity to implement this kind of solution that are identifying and probably possible to deploy it. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cristiano. That was truly insightful. Our next presenter is none other than John Benzie. Bit of introduction. John Benzie is our Acting Director for Aquatic Foods Biosciences, and today he will be presenting on the True Fish project and also the Aquatic Animal Health project.
That seems a very complicated system. So today I'm going to talk about a couple of projects which are contributing to improving sustainable aquaculture in Kenya through capacity building, both in aquatic animal health and in genetic resource management. Now, firstly, talking about aquatic animal health, there are two large epidemiological studies underway, both in Ghana and in Kenya, and they're aimed not just looking at the distribution and nature of diseases themselves of aquatic organisms, but look also at farmer behavior, how they operate their farms, how they choose their feeds, how they deal with the inputs to their farming system, and how they deal with the outputs, all with respect to building up a clearer picture of how aquatic animal health plays a role in the effectiveness of their aquaculture operations and the potential cost and an economic model of the effects of animal health in Kenya. And you saw already that there were groups in Nairobi, training, in this case, I think a range of Department of Fisheries staff to be able to undertake a number of these epidemiological studies. And in addition, there's capacity building in that NORAD program for master studentships for 13 students, 7 of whom are from the University of Nairobi, and these students will work on a range of specific topics that cover a whole suite of different issues within the country, and that can build into the information on the aquatic health in Kenya. Additionally, the team has also trained a whole range of staff and students from various parts of Africa in our WorldFish facility at Abassa in Egypt. And you see here about 20. And you may notice some faces in the photographs behind that are again in Nairobi today. And the students trained in Egypt come from a range of countries in Africa. You can see 5 listed here, and a large proportion of the participants came from Kenya. Now, the second project that I'll talk about is engaged in the sustainable management of genetic resources, TrueFish. Now, TrueFish in this instance is funded by the European Union. It's part of a major project supporting the East African community, and it's managed through the Lake Victoria Fisheries Organization, and is focused really on improving the management of Lake Victoria fisheries and the ability to develop an effective and sustainable aquaculture industry around the lake. And of course, the major issues that arise in aquaculture everywhere is, where do you safely put your farms? In places where the farms can be productive and sustainable. How many farms can you put in one place? There's an awful lot of rafts in this picture. And additionally, the other issues are, where will they get the feeds? What will be the environmental impact? So a case of spatial planning for how you situate your farms, the implications for aquatic animal health control in that process. That's all being done as part of TrueFish, but largely those activities are being undertaken by the Food and Aquaculture Organization of the UN. What WorldFish has been asked to do is to look at the biodiversity of the region, because the other matter that concerns people is the potential effect of aquaculture on biodiversity of the fish themselves, and the potential interaction between farmed fish and wild populations of fish. And that, of course, has a bearing for whether one imports elite strains of high-performing strains from elsewhere, whether one develops indigenous populations, and so on. There's a whole range of questions. And in particular, in Africa, there's a question in relation to that about tilapia, because people are concerned about the interbreeding between species of tilapia. And to that end, the project has, over the last couple of years, despite COVID, has sampled something like in excess of 60 sites around the Lake Victoria catchment in order to start assessing the spatial genetic variation within the region. It's trained a whole range of people on molecular genetics, and particular genomics, to be able to analyze the information from samples of fish. And these 20 people were trained in Nairobi at the ILRI campus, the International Livestock Research Institute in Nairobi. And they're all here in the lobby at ILRI, proudly displaying their certificates. And then they've gone off to be working with the 3 national agencies that have done the collections. And within Kenya, it's been KEMFRI that's responsible for that. And we see here a sampling operation in Migori County, and they're setting out the nets to collect the fish. So it's quite a big operation to go and collect fish, not just from farm ponds, but from natural lakes, natural rivers, a whole range of sources. And what then happens is that the fish are examined more closely. You can see the picture on the left. They're measuring the fish. You see the picture on the top middle. And then after that, they take a fin clip, a small portion of the fin, and you can see that on the right-hand side being put into a sampling vial. And it's from that small piece of fin that the DNA is extracted, and through a very sophisticated system, which only looks like a grey anonymous box on the left-hand side, being explained to a range of staff from Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. This machine will produce whole genome sequence of more than 200 fish in a couple of days. And so they are looking at that equipment. They were there for about 2 or 3 weeks, in June. I was with them for some of that time, and they were learning, firstly, how to see how the process is done, but then most importantly, being able to analyze the data that emerges. And that's the bioinformatic analysis. And here they're all engaged in learning that sophisticated process. Now you might say, why go so sophisticated? Well, the issue here is that we need to understand in detail how the fish interact, how they exchange genes or not, and what might be the implications of that. And the ability to do that becomes far greater with a higher level of information. But the essence of the issue is to find tools that can help us tell the difference between tilapia species, which, by the way, is not so easy if you're collecting them in the field. And here's an example. You can see the color codes on the right-hand side with the pictures of the different tilapia species, 3 of them. And red is one species, light blue another, dark blue a third. And then you'll see that there are gray dots in between. And so the genetics allows us to identify the 3 different species, and then it picks up the hybrids. And then with the more detailed genomic information, we can actually work out far more about actually who was mating with who when. But very importantly, we can start to say, was this a hybrid event a billion years ago? Because the tilapias in Africa throughout, but particularly East Africa, have been exchanging genes between different populations for millions of years. So it will start to help us distinguish between that natural event and whether there's been hybridization between aquaculture species or not. So it will identify places that we need to conserve, species we need to conserve, and identify species that will be good for aquaculture and a potential resource going into the future. And all of that is to provide evidence to be able to develop, I suppose, implementing regulations and policy, actually to sustain the implementation of policy within the Lake Victoria region, but on an evidence-based approach. And for that, we have also the LVF Working Group on Biodiversity Management at the moment, chaired by Kenyan workers. And that committee has met a couple of times. And once the data is analyzed, they'll get very busy about trying to interpret the technical genetic data into effective implementation of policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John. That was great. So now our next presenter is online, actually. Rahma Adam, are you with us?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning to some who are based in other parts of the world. My name is Rahma Adam. I'm a social and inclusion scientist at WorldFish. I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya at Iluri campus. It's a pleasure to have you today with us, the Kenya High Commission and the delegation at Penang, Malaysia, and I'm happy to join you virtually here in Nairobi, Kenya. So the topic of my presentation is more on the livelihoods aspect. So I'm going to focus on the research and development work that we have been doing in Kenya in terms of the gender equality and social inclusion aspects. So I think the first and the most important thing is to understand why should we really care about and having gender integration and gender strategic research at WorldFish and other CGs that we work with in aquatic food systems. And the second focus of my topic today is to understand about the pathways of change that as WorldFish and the 1CJR initiatives that we have been working with try to achieve here in Kenya in terms of empowering women and achieving gender equality and social inclusion, which also includes the youth aspects and the lessons we have learned from Kenya. So there are 3 pathways that I'm going to focus today. And the first pathway is the pathway that looks at gender inclusive and gender responsive climate smart aquatic food solutions. So it's more on climate change research that we have been working with and the technological innovation. And the second pathway of change that we have really looked at is the issue of inclusive livelihoods and wealth generation in aquatic food system to ensure that we empower our women and the marginalized group whose life depend on small-scale fisheries or aquaculture for that matter. And the third pathway is about inclusive governance. Inclusive governance that includes decision making, being able to share for the women, men, marginalized community to share their ideas on how they should manage their natural resources and how the issue of equity can be addressed in sharing the benefits that can be derived from the aquatic food system. And the last, but not least, is the tools of gender inclusive and gender responsive research that at WorldFish and our partners have been using. So why we should care? There are mainly a lot of arguments of why we should care, but today I've only summarized 5. And one of the first one is gender equality and women's empowerment. They are globally recognized priorities as well put by the Sustainable Development Goals, number 5, which we hope to achieve by 2030. And the second important thing is the fish and agri-food systems. They have a lot of, at the macro level, micro level, there's a lot of inequalities and iniquities when you look at the wage gap that men and women receive who are working in this sector, either in the processing companies or in big aquacultural farms, among others. And the invisibility of women in aquatic food system. I mean, women have been shown actually to participate in all the nodes of the value chain, but the documentation has been mostly pronounced or more visible in the post-harvest processing and trade of fish, which then tend to mask some of the inequalities that we usually need to address in the other nodes of the value chain. And the fourth and important argument is the issue of food security and nutrition aspect, which is very important, especially for the case of the Sub-Saharan Africa and Kenya in particular, when we think of, the household being food secure, the household being well-fed, well-nourished, and the marginalized individuals also, their needs being addressed, and especially for children under 5 and pregnant women and people who are immunocompromised. And the fifth important argument is when it comes to when there are shocks, let's say diseases like COVID, which really hit Kenya and across the globe, 2019, 2020, even now in some part, women experience a high degree of socioeconomic marginalization. And the same with the climate change aspects. So for the first pathway, the resilience of aquatic food, which relies on the gender responsive and gender inclusive climate smart aquatic food solutions, us at WorldFish Kenya, we have been working on the research part to conduct a study in the Lake Victoria region, focusing on Homa Bay and Migori County, for the past couple of months this year, from April to July. And actually, the genesis of this study is there was a demand, the demand that came from the governor's office of the counties in Homa Bay and Migori, when they attended the the past COP 27, they actually went to the CJR booth and try to find people who are working in initiative in East and Southern Africa, and they noted that they wanted projects to be brought in that part of Kenya, the Lake Victoria Zone region, and we should look at the issues of fisheries. So that's the genesis of this project, and WorldFish, we are happy to champion this through this initiative of East and Southern Africa project. So far, we have collected data on structured household surveys and qualitative data through focus group discussions and key informant interviews. And we have started with the findings are are very pronounced in terms of the issues of flooding, drought, emergence of human and animal diseases, and the tides. There's been a lot of death due to the fishers, the small fishers who go to the lake, and they just rely basically on their instinct. And not necessarily, they don't have the information which can come through meteorological centers, through SMS in other parts of the world, to be able to know that there are strong tides today, there's going to be a heavy rain. So if their instincts do not tell them right and they go, there's a lot of death that has occurred so far, loss of life, and issues of lack of finance for across the people who are involved, from from the input supplier up to the processor, the woman who processes fish, post-harvest losses, and among other gender norms and social issues. So this is some of the photos that we took in the field, showing the house and tree that got basically is submerged in water in Got Kachola, Migori, and the pollution, which is very high in that place, as you can see from the photo here in Migori County. And so, okay, the problems are many. And as WorldFish, we have prepared ourselves to really work on few of some of the things as a pilot study. And some of these things include bundling of innovation, especially with the issue of the post-harvest loss and not lack of proper processing facilities. We plan to work on gender inclusive financing and post-harvesting technologies such as solar tent dryers, with our women and men there who are involved in that part of the node of the value chain. And we have planned to work with the meteorological stations. Actually, in Migori and Homa Bay country, there's one that is run by SIPE. So we're going to work closely with them to find ways how we can provide on-time information about the state of the climate there, the rainfall, among others, to the fisher communities, on-time access. And then we are planning also to try solar freezers because of the again of the issues of the losses, and the gender transformative approach, which also includes savings and loans. And the second pathway, which is inclusive livelihoods and wealth generation for aquatic foods, we have been doing research, and our first research, which was done last year, sometime end of last year, was on 6 counties in Kenya. We conducted a study on gendered aquacultural value chain for the 6 county, and also with the help of the CGR Gender Platform, the financial support, we're able to look at the issues of women empowerment in aquacultural sector in Kenya relative to men through our tool called WEFI in the 6 counties in Kenya. So quickly, there are some challenges that are common across the board, regardless of the gender of the participant of the study, and this was the issue of input supply. The input supply will find that some farmers, they would order to get fingerlings, but by the time they come there, most of them have not survived. So, for example, there was this farmer, Mr. Macharia, out of 4,000 he had bought, only about 500 of the fingerlings survived. This is a big loss to our farmers. And the fish feeds are very expensive. And even though they are subsidized feeds, but still farmers are still struggling, issues of pests and diseases. The hatchery that the farmers actually, make themselves are really rudimentary, some of them, and they could use our help in terms of developing better facilities for that. And we found that the preliminary findings shows that women participate in all nodes of the value chain, but they are more in higher numbers at the lower ends of the value chain. In terms of, they're more into marketing and the processing. But there are some who we see as champions. For example, there are some few women who have input supply shops. For example, the Lucy, you can see here in the diagram, Mama Lucy has her own agrovet shop, which she sells fish inputs. And there are some women who are doing very well in aquaculture, such as Agnes Gikundi here with the farm linear ponds, keeping mudfish for commercial. And we also saw that there are some business opportunities that as WorldFish we could be able to help, especially in terms of youth engagement in this sector. We found a guy called Newton Owino in Kisumu, who has really pioneered technology for processing waste from fish. He is able to make leather out of that, make leather jackets, make decoration, and several different other tools that are important for the household. So we hope to work with him in order to inspire youth to take part in the value chain. And besides that, WorldFish also has worked under a project which is spanned 12 to 13 countries, and one of the country is Kenya. It's funded by African Development Bank, and this project is called TAT Project, Technologies for African Agriculture Transformation. And we have through that big project, WorldFish also has a decent size of work in that. And WorldFish has worked with partners, local partners, developing innovation platforms and centers of excellency where farmers could be put together and learn better farming management practices. Youth could be inspired to take part in the aquaculture sector, as you could see there, and other fish processing technologies that they've been trained for women and men, which also improve value addition in terms of nutrition, like fish powder, among others. And the last is the inclusive governance as the foundation of equitable and resilient aquatic food system. So in terms of our research, we have really been working hard and trying to understand what strategies or what models that will really work in terms of aquaculture, in terms of small-scale fisheries and all our actors in the value chain, and the use of the natural resource that Kenya has been endowed, and how can it be well, the dividends can be well appreciated by men, women, youth, among other actors within the value chain. And through our Ukama Ustawi, or East and Southern Africa Regional Initiative, sometime last year, July, we were able to have a multi-stakeholder meeting hosted here at ILRI, where we brought people from the Ministry of Fisheries, Ministry of Ag, people from the NGO, people from the research sector, people from the donor community, and the fishers themselves and other actors within the value chain to come and really discuss what really works in terms of finances, what really works in terms of the governance of the natural resource bodies that we have, what really works also in terms of decision making within the household and outside the household, among others. And there are a lot of great lessons that we were able to learn and share with the ministry, and also KIPRA, which is a policy governance, work with us. And the last slide is the tools that we have here at WorldFish and our partners for working on issues of gender equality and social inclusion that we have developed and championed, and we are training our partners here in Kenya, NGO, universities, among others, to use so that we can really empower our women, address issues of gender inequalities, and improve the livelihoods of the people whose lives depend on aquatic food systems. Thank you very much.
Okay, our last presenter of the day is with us. Our senior research analyst, Nurul, she will be taking the stage. After this last presentation, we have a quick Q&A session. So if any of you have any questions, just raise your hand. I'll be distributing microphones. And for people online, do unmute your mics or share them in the chat and we'll read them out. Over to you.
Thank you, Anis. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I will present one of our exciting project. Actually, I'm presenting on behalf of our project leader, Dr. Roderick Yosa, who is not available today because he's sick. So he just convey regards to you. So the title of my presentation is, this is the project that we are conducting now, the development and scaling of sustainable feed for resilient aquatic food system in sub-Saharan Africa, or we call it FASA. Okay, this is the overall aquaculture value chain. We can see that the inputs, the production, the processing, commercialization, and consumption. But for this project, we will focus on the yellow area, which is cover the feed ingredients and also the equipment. And if we talk about the feed, the conventional way of looking at feed, we have the ingredients, we have the formulation and processing. Basically, the ingredients, we have conventional ingredients such as like soya bean, maize, and also fish meal and others. And also we have a non-conventional like the high protein sunflower meal, concentrate, and also we have we call it the novel ingredients like the insect meal and single cell protein. So usually after we got this ingredient, we will do the formulation, depend on the species and life stages, and also we conduct an experiment to measure the digestibility of the ingredients, and also we do the experiment to investigate the nutrient requirement of the species that we want to work on. And basically, after we got all the information, we will package it in a database and software, so it can be used by others from that database, how they can formulate the feed. And after we got all the formulation, we started to produce the feed. So there are several types of feeds, like the sinking and floating. So basically, we have the pelletizer and extrusion, and also there's also like the commercial and also the farm made in feed. So this is the practical way of looking at the feed. So you can see there's a woman feeding the fish, and basically beside the feed that provided by her, there is also input from other sources like from the gardens and also from the poultry. That there is an issue of the sustainable and the pollution. So we will need to find the solution for this. Basically, in fish farming, aquaculture nutrition critical because feed represents approximately like 50 to 7% in the semi-intensive and intensive system. And yet still feed is the most expensive input in the aquaculture farming. The other problem is feed especially in the rural areas. So I will provide an overview about our project, the FASA project. The project country include Nigeria, Zambia, and Kenya. And then there are also some other activities in which involving the labs, like the experiments and the analysis of the feed and also the ingredient that will be conducted in WorldFish in Penang. So the project is funded by the NORAD, the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation, and it is we will be like 5 years from 2022 to 27. And the goal is to develop low-cost, highly nutritious fish feeds based on novel feed ingredient, and we can enable about 5,000 smallholder fish farmer in 3 African countries. to test and adopt these ingredients and feeds, leading to increased income, improved food security, and reduced waste and pollution. So this is the partners of our project. The project will be led by WorldFish. Project implementing partners include ICP in Kenya, based in Nairobi, Kenya. ICP is the leading institutional research institute that focus on the insect for the sustainable development. So we have also a CORAF in Nigeria and Ale Aqua in Zambia, and also NREDC in Zambia. And also we work with the Swedish University of Agricultural and Science to improve our ingredients. We also work with the local feed millers and farmers group. So basically what we want to achieve is we have 3 outcomes: to enhance capacity of at least 2 stakeholder groups in each country. So one of it is like, one of the activity is including the scoping studies, where we want to find the suitable alternative local ingredients from the countries where we can use as a feed ingredients. And also we want to develop a new knowledge on the data on the nutrient requirement of tilapia and also catfish. And the second outcome is the quality of at least 15 local ingredients has been improved through processing technique, and the ingredients are used by the stakeholder. This will include some activity in Penang, like to measure the digestibility of the local feed ingredient. So the local feed ingredient will be shipped from those countries, the 3 countries here, and we are now actually expecting the ingredients because the scoping studies has been conducted. So once we receive the ingredient, we will do the lab analysis here. And outcome is to enable 5,000 farmers directly or indirectly linked to the project across test and use novel feed solution. So we will try to scale this and to test and to adopt this to the about 5,000 farmers across the countries. This is this February, our project leader, Dr. Roderick Yosa here in the photo, he visited some of the field sites. So this is the KMFRI, Sagana Aquaculture Center, Kenya Marine Fishery Research Institute. They have a very good facility, and they have the pond, and they also have the aquarium for the indoor experiment. So this center will be the site activity for this project. And he also visited the Bukani Aqua Park. Bukani Aqua Park is the pond, the pond that owned by the local farmers, and they have a lot of ponds. And actually, but the main problem that they're facing is they have a risk. They're not able to get the feed. So there's a most constraint. And this is the Great Lake feeds. This is the local feed miller. This feed miller is owned by the local farmers, the local farmers, and they produce 30 tons of feed per month. So they get the source of protein for the feed from the nearby lake. There's a shrimp that is not eaten by the human. So they collect the shrimp and process it to be the feed ingredients. And this is the Victory Farms. The farm produce tilapia, and they can produce 40 tons fish per day. So, and then they also use 50 tons of feeds per day. So this is quite this is like, so they are depend on the imported, all the feed are imported. So we hope that with this project we can help them to reduce the dependence on the imported feed. So basically this is basically very complicated, I think. Let me just give them overview. Actually, as we discussed earlier, the project will conduct in-depth studies or scoping studies on available local ingredient for formulation and for the formulation. And also we want to produce the sufficient nutrient but low cost feed. So in general, the project will generate data of knowledge on market, gender, and social factors, as well as investigate the climate change adaptation potential. And WorldFish will work with several partners, as I mentioned earlier, to improve the ingredients and also to measure the nutrient requirement of the tilapia and the catfish. And all the result will be tested on farm by some of the PhD and master student that will be hired in this project. And also all the knowledge and the result that we obtain will be disseminated through the policy brief, workshop, and etc. And it expected that around 5,000 local farmers from across the country will expected to get the benefit from this project, and the use of feed is expected to increase the profitability, income, and use in the water bodies and feed, and it will lead to the creation of sustainable feed system for the production of nutrient food and contribute to the poverty reduction. And basically, one of the other activity that we also work with the MoALD, the monitoring evaluation learning teams, is we have conducted a workshop on the specific to produce a specific theory change for Kenya, and this will also be conducted in a report that will be published for this workshop. So this is the report. Okay. Well, thank you.
If there are no questions, we'll move on to the next agenda, which is to invite Your Excellency for a few words.
Yeah, thank you so much, MC, DG, WorldFish, and your team from WorldFish. I think I've had a very exciting day in so many ways. You know, like one of them I would say is the sauna. I enjoyed out there. But having said that, let me just thank you, plus your team, for the work that you're doing, which I really appreciate in terms of, developing sustainable ways of, expanding our food systems across and especially in focusing on the area of fish farming and aquaculture. And I want to assure you the support from our government, and that is why I'm here, that we are ready to collaborate. We are ready to work with you to the extent possible. And as much as we're talking about, I'm here as Kenyan High Commissioner, but also I can speak. So I mean, as much for the rest of Africa, that in as much as you build capacities in all those areas within the countries that have been identified, that those capacities should be able to replicate in the rest of the region in terms of being able to expand our food systems and our food types within the region. So mine is just really appreciate the time today, the presentation that we have had, the discussions we had in the boardroom. And I can't forget the sumptuous lunch that you are given, you offer today. And mine is to wish you all the best in all that you do. I'm reminded that when you work and you do whatever you do, we cut a sweat, we get home so tired. I'm encouraged all the time by the realization that when you love humanity, you serve humanity. And when you do that, it's there to love and to serve God. So loving and serving humanity is loving and serving God. So mine is just to appreciate you all, the good work that you're doing. Just like we're discussing informally, we are living in a world where science is not really, we have some quotas within our segments in the society that are becoming skeptical about science. But that is not taking us anywhere. And this should not discourage scientists wherever you are. That you should put even more effort so that even those upcoming scientists who may tend to follow when let me say it, the political leadership might be, doubting science. Let us show them that the solutions to humanity, the solution to our globe can only be solved through science. There's nothing else. Not prayers. Of course, prayers is part of it. I mean, we are religious in some ways. If whether you went down and said some prayers, and the problem will still be there. What requires science for solution has no other way of solving it. We must look for science to provide that solution. So mine is just to encourage us not to feel, discouraged, so to speak, at some point, and to do what you stepped out to do and serve humanity. Just like I said, at the end of the day, it's posterity that will judge us. Today, we talk of good things that happen through science, throughout the history of mankind. And we can talk very positive about those who are behind the science. So let us not be the part of the civilization that the world in future and the coming generation will have fingers to be pointing back to. And the other point, like I mentioned in the morning, is informally, that whatever we do, as we replicate these capacities, as we replicate everything that we do, is the whole idea of creating a global citizenship. We are all global citizens, however we look at it. And there is nothing that has brought this reality closer home than the challenge that we saw with COVID-19. It didn't matter your health system, whatever part of the world that you lived in, you faced the wrath of the COVID-19. And when history is written, I don't know what to be said of the global leadership at that point. instead of rushing to sort out the problem where it was, there was a lot of conspiracy theories being spun around. There are a lot of finger pointing that was being done. You know, if this house was on fire, we don't start theorizing how the fire started. The first thing to do is to put off the fire. Then we can sit in retrospect and understand how it started and how to make it not to happen again. And I hope globally, the global leadership has learned something. But again, this way I would say scientists, don't give them that room. They'll come with their alternative truths. Let's give them the facts as they are. At the end of the day, the facts will stand. At the end of the day, the facts will take us to the next level in this world. Otherwise, mine is just to thank you so much, DG, and your team, and I hope to be here once again for another forum. But I've really appreciated, and once again receive the greetings from the Kenyan government, and specifically from the State Department of Blue Economy and Fisheries. I'll be relaying the messages as you pass them to us, and I will be communicating. Otherwise, thank you so much, and God bless you.
Your Excellency, thank you so much. So if I could ask you to please stay, we would like to do a little ceremony, a small souvenir from WorldFish. So the High Commissioner presented by our DG. And with that, that's the end of our program. Thank you so much to those online and to those who join us today at the auditorium. Till next time.